The crystal wine glasses clinked as my mother set the table for our weekly family dinner. Everything had to be perfect. The silverware aligned just so, the napkins folded into precise triangles, the appearance of success maintained at all costs. I sat quietly watching her orchestrate this weekly performance of family perfection. My father, James Walker, CEO of Walker Construction, was due home any minute. He'd spent the day meeting with potential investors, trying to save his failing company, though he'd never admit it was failing. "Emily," my mother fussed, adjusting my collar, "couldn't you have worn something more professional? That department store blazer hardly speaks success." I resisted the urge to remind her that my department store clothes were all I could afford after paying my own way through business school, something my parents had refused to help with, calling my dreams of starting my own company childish fantasies. The front door opened and my father's heavy footsteps echoed through our suburban mansion. Even from the dining room I could smell the expensive scotch on his breath. The meetings must not have gone well. "Diana," he called to my mother. "Pour me another drink. Those venture capitalist vultures are circling again." He stormed into the dining room, his tailored suit slightly rumpled, his tie loosened. His eyes landed on me and his expression soured further. "Oh, you're here. It's Wednesday, Dad. Family dinner, remember?" He grunted, taking his seat at the head of the table. "Right. How's that little startup of yours going? Still playing entrepreneur?" I took a slow sip of water, buying time. In truth, my little startup, Nova Technologies, had just secured its biggest contract yet. But they didn't know that. Didn't know I'd been working under a different name, building something revolutionary while they dismissed my every effort. "It's going fine," I said simply. "Fine." He laughed harshly. "You know what's not fine? Watching my daughter waste her potential on some pipe dream when she could be learning to run a real company." My mother set his scotch down, hovering nervously. "James, perhaps we shouldn't." "No, Diana, she needs to hear this." He turned to me, eyes hard. "You'll never be successful, Emily. You think you can compete in the real business world? You think your fancy tech ideas mean anything without connections, without real experience?" I thought of the offices I'd left just hours ago, my real offices 40 stories above the city, where I ran a company that was revolutionizing the construction industry with AI-driven project management systems. The same systems his biggest competitors were already using. "I'm doing okay, Dad." "Okay." He slammed his hand on the table, making the crystal shake. "Okay isn't good enough in this world. Look at Walker Construction, 30 years of blood, sweat, and tears. That's success. That's legacy. And you're throwing away your chance to be part of it." My mother tried again to intervene. "The chicken will get cold." "Let it," he snapped. "Emily needs to understand. This fantasy of yours, this tech company, it's nothing. You're nothing in this industry. Nobody even knows your name." If he only knew how wrong he was. Nova Technologies had become the talk of the construction industry, our software transforming how major projects were managed. We operated under my mother's maiden name, Matthews, while I built something far beyond what Walker Construction could imagine. "Maybe you're right, Dad," I said quietly, cutting into my chicken. "Maybe I am nothing." He nodded, satisfied with what he thought was submission. "It's not too late, you know. Come work for me. Learn the business properly. Stop this foolish startup nonsense." Just then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his expression changing from dismissive to anxious. "It's Global Build," he said, referring to the largest construction company in the country, and his last hope for a partnership that might save Walker Construction. "I have to take this," he answered, putting on his best business voice. "James Walker speaking." The voice on the other end was clear enough for all of us to hear. "Mr. Walker, this is Sandra Chin from Global Build. Your meeting with our CEO has been confirmed for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Ms. Matthews is particularly interested in discussing the integration of Nova Technologies systems into any potential partnership." My father's face froze. My mother dropped her fork. "I'm sorry," he stammered. "Did you say Nova Technologies?" "Yes, our CEO has made it clear. Any partnership with Walker Construction must include full implementation of Nova's AI management systems." Ms. Matthews was quite insistent. I stood up slowly, pulling my own phone from my pocket. "Hello, Dad." The color drained from his face as I put my phone on speaker, connecting to the same call. Sandra, this is Emily Matthews. Please ensure all the contracts are ready for tomorrow's meeting. And remind the board that our standard integration fee is non-negotiable. There was a pause on the line as Sandra processed the voices. Of course, Ms. Matthews. Will you be conducting the meeting personally? Oh yes, I smiled, watching my father's expression shift from confusion to shock to disbelief. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother had collapsed into her chair, her perfectly manicured hands trembling as she reached for her wine glass. My father just stared, his face cycling through various shades of red. You. He finally managed. You're Matthews? The Emily Matthews. I smoothed my department store blazer. Surprised that your nothing daughter built a billion-dollar company while you weren't looking? Impossible, he whispered. Nova Technologies is. They're revolutionizing the industry. I corrected. We are revolutionizing the industry. And tomorrow, you'll need my approval to save Walker Construction. My father stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. This is some kind of trick. You couldn't possibly. I pulled out my tablet, accessing Nova's secure server. Would you like to see the numbers, Dad? Our market valuation? Our client list? Or perhaps you'd like to see how many of your competitors are already using our systems. My mother found her voice. But, all those small apartments you lived in, those budget clothes. Unlike some people, I said, looking pointedly at our surroundings, I don't measure success by what I display. Every penny I earned went back into the company. While you were maintaining appearances, I was building something real. My father paced the dining room, running his hands through his gray hair. Why didn't you tell us? Why keep it secret? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. 3 years ago when I came to you with my business plan, what did you say? Technology can't replace experience. The construction industry doesn't need innovation. You're just a girl playing with computers. He flinched at his own words thrown back at him. So I did it myself, I continued. I used Mom's maiden name because I knew the Walker name would only hold me back. Every door you slammed in my face, I built my own door. Every connection you refused to share, I forged new ones. My phone buzzed, a message from my actual executive team about tomorrow's meeting. The irony wasn't lost on me. While my parents thought I was failing, I was running emergency meetings with Global Build's board of directors. Your company is failing, Dad, I said, my voice softer now. Your methods are outdated. Your refusal to adapt is costing you millions. Tomorrow's meeting isn't just about a partnership, it's about survival. He slumped back into his chair, the fight draining from him. How bad is it? Without modernization? 6 months, maybe less, before you start losing major contracts. Your competitors are already using our systems. They're completing projects 40% faster with 60% fewer errors. My mother reached for his hand. James, maybe we should listen. I stood up, gathering my things. The meeting is at 9 a.m. I suggest you spend tonight reviewing these. I placed a folder on the table, one I'd brought just in case, containing a detailed analysis of Walker Construction's vulnerabilities and how Nova's systems could address them. Emily, my father called as I reached the door. Wait. I turned, seeing something I'd never seen before in his eyes, uncertainty. All those times I said you'd never succeed, all those times I dismissed you, were exactly what I needed, I finished for him. You taught me the most important business lesson of all. The only person who can define your worth is you. As I drove home that night to my penthouse apartment, one my parents never knew about, I thought about tomorrow's meeting. In less than 12 hours, I would sit across from my father not as his disappointing daughter, but as the CEO he desperately needed to impress. My phone buzzed again, a text from Sandra at Global Build. Ms. Matthews, the board is particularly interested in your AI integration timeline. Should we prepare the full presentation? I smiled, thinking of my father's face when he realized who he'd been dismissing all these years. Yes, I replied. Let's show them everything. The next morning, I arrived at Global Build's headquarters an hour early. My executive team was already there, setting up presentations and reviewing contracts. Unlike the modest clothes I wore to family dinners, today I dressed the part, a tailored Chanel suit that cost more than my father's car. Ms. Matthews, Sandra greeted me, Walker Construction's team has arrived. They're waiting in the lower conference room. I nodded, checking my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. Let them wait. I want to review the terms one last time. The terms were deliberately crafted to leave my father no choice. Walker Construction would get access to Nova's revolutionary systems, but at a price, both financial and personal. He would have to publicly acknowledge that his outdated methods had failed, and that the future lay in the very technology he'd dismissed. At precisely 9 a.m., I entered the main conference room. The Global Build board members sat on one side, my father and his team on the other. His eyes widened when he saw me. Gone was the daughter in department store clothes, replaced by someone he barely recognized. "Good morning, gentlemen," I began, taking my place at the head of the table. "Shall we discuss the future of Walker Construction?" My father shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Emily, Ms. Matthews, perhaps we could speak privately first." "Everything that needs to be said can be said here," I replied coolly. "Now let's look at the numbers." The next 2 hours were brutal. I systematically laid bare every weakness in Walker Construction's operations, every failed project, every lost contract. With each slide, my father seemed to shrink further into his chair. "Your company's inefficiencies have cost you $50 million in the last year alone," I continued, pulling up the next chart. "Your project completion rate is 45% slower than industry standard. Your error rate is nearly double the acceptable threshold." One of the Global Build board members leaned forward. "And Nova's systems can address these issues?" "We already have." I switched to our success metrics. Companies using our AI integration have seen project timelines cut by half, costs reduced by 40%, and error rates dropping to near zero. My father's construction manager, who'd worked with him for 20 years, whispered something in his ear. My father shook his head, then finally spoke up. "The cost, your integration fee, is non-negotiable," I finished. "But considerably less than what you're losing now. Shall I show you the projection of Walker Construction's value without our intervention?" The graph I displayed next made several people gasp. The downward spiral was dramatic and undeniable. 6 months, I said quietly. "That's how long before you start losing your major clients. 3 months after that, the layoffs begin. By this time next year, Walker Construction will be nothing but a cautionary tale about refusing to adapt." My father stood up suddenly. "May I have a moment with Ms. Matthews? Alone?" The room cleared quickly. Even Global Build's board members seemed eager to escape the tension. Once we were alone, my father's facade crumbled. "Why are you doing this? Is this revenge for all the times I doubted you?" I walked to the windows, looking out over the city. "This isn't about revenge, Dad. It's about business. Everything you taught me, remember? No room for sentiment in business decisions." "I was wrong," he said, his voice breaking. "About everything. About you." I turned to face him. "Yes, you were. But this isn't about being right or wrong anymore. This is about survival. Your company's survival. By surrendering to my daughter's company? By admitting I was wrong to everyone?" "No," I corrected him. "By partnering with the industry's leading AI integration firm. By showing that James Walker is smart enough to recognize the future when he sees it." He sank into a chair, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "When did you become this?" "I always was this, Dad. You just never saw it." I sat across from him. "The contract includes a clause making you Nova's primary construction partner for all East Coast projects. Your company won't just survive, it'll thrive. But you have to let go of the past." He stared at the contract for a long moment. "And if I don't sign? Then I'll make the same offer to your competitors. Business is business, right?" His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the pen. "Your mother will never let me hear the end of this." "About that," I smiled. "I've already offered her a position on Nova's board. Someone needs to oversee our public relations, and she's always been good at maintaining appearances." He actually laughed at that, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in years. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "I learned from the best," I said. Even if the best didn't know he was teaching me. The signing took less than 10 minutes. In that time, Walker Construction transformed from a failing traditional construction company to a pioneer in AI-integrated building systems. My father transformed from an outdated CEO to a visionary embracing the future. And I transformed from nothing into someone my father finally saw. 1 year later, I stood in my father's office, his new office in the Nova Technologies building. The walls were covered with project renderings, all powered by our AI systems. His desk displayed 2 photos, one of the original Walker Construction headquarters and one of me at my college graduation, the day he told me I'd never succeed. "Ready for the board meeting?" I asked from the doorway. He adjusted his tie, the same one he'd worn that family dinner night. "Ready to watch my daughter show everyone how wrong I was?" "Always." As we walked to the conference room together, he stopped suddenly. "Emily, that night when I said you were nothing..." "Dad," I cut him off, "we're going to be late." He smiled, understanding. We didn't need to revisit the past. The present and the future were what mattered now. Because sometimes the best response to "you'll never be successful" is simply to succeed. And sometimes the sweetest victory isn't proving someone wrong, but showing them a better way to be right. As I took my place at the head of the conference table, I caught my father's eye. He nodded slightly, and in that nod was everything we'd never said. His regret, my forgiveness, and our shared pride in what we'd built together. Because in the end, success isn't just about proving your worth to others, it's about proving it to yourself. And sometimes, the longest journey from nothing to everything is just the distance between 2 chairs at a family dinner table.